You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening. Welcome to Friday's edition of the Chad Hasty Show. Glad to have you with us. You've made it Memorial Day weekend. A lot of folks taking off. It was an empty building when I arrived here earlier today. It was just a ghost town in this building as people they got out. I don't know if they're going places, if they're traveling. I want to hear from you. If you're traveling this weekend, if you're doing a great Texas road trip or a great American road trip anywhere. Where are you heading to? You know, they predict that millions and millions and millions of people will be hitting the roads. A lot of them going to Las Vegas, apparently, as we talked about last night. But a lot of people going elsewhere. If you're one of those hitting the road this weekend, let us know where you're going. And, that way, I don't know, we can be a little bit jealous maybe of where you're off to. You can text in at 806-680-2790. You can also give us a call, 1-800-687-0790. We've got quite a bit that we're going to get into here on the program. We've got, of course, the latest going on with the Texas GOP Convention down in San Antonio, right there on the Riverwalk. We'll get into that. Also celebrating Memorial Day, remembering what Memorial Day actually means. It's not just a day where you get great prices on appliances. No. It means much more than that. We'll get into that a little bit later on. We've also got the People's VP pick, a story that came out earlier today about who the Republican, or at least Republican voters, want as Trump's VP. May surprise you, may not. We'll get into that as the show continues today. And I don't know, whatever else we get into. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to have an interview with one of our great Texas forts that we're going to be replaying for you, and get into a little best of as well coming up in the next hour. So a lot of fun to be had here on the program. Want to hear from you. Get in early while you can at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can text in. When you do text in, let us know, give us a name. Let us know who you are, where you're listening from. We always like to know that. And when you give us a call at 1-800-687-0790, the first voice you hear from when you dial in today, he's been by himself most of the day, it seems. Nick, the first voice you hear from. Nick, have you had a good day just basically up here by yourself all day?
I have, and since you brought that up, this trend will go on through the weekend.
Yes.
In fact, I was just thinking when you were rattling off where everyone seems to be traveling.
Yes.
Or just the large quantity of people traveling. I'm thinking, what do those of us do who are staying home?
Yeah.
Who are not traveling? What do we do?
What do you do?
What do we do?
Well, you've got to mow your yard, don't you? Don't you
All
still?
right, fine.
Don't
You're
you
right.
still have to
Okay.
mow the yard?
All right. Besides mowing my yard,
You're
yes, I
getting
do.
complaints from the neighbors. The city has come out. They've knocked on your door. They're
Yeah.
like, "Sir, you really."
I open the blinds a little bit, just my eyes.
Yeah. And they're like, "Sir, you really."
Yeah.
This is why you have a spider problem. You really need to get this taken care of.
Maybe. All right, fine. Besides mowing, I don't. It's like, well, what do we do? Just lie around?
Yeah,
relax.
that's right.
Have a weekend off, I guess.
That sounds good. Maybe do a little grilling out. That's what a lot of people will do this weekend. We'll get into that. We'll get into weekend plans. I've got that as a little topic later on that we can get into. Have you had a good day though overall?
Yeah, it's been very quiet, and but in a good way. Very peaceful.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't hear. I'm not hearing chatter anywhere. Not that I
Right.
normally do.
Yeah.
But I just today especially, I don't.
It's quiet.
Exactly. My little bubble.
They told everyone just go home.
Right.
Just go. Just
Right.
leave and have a great day.
Yeah. Worry about the work later.
Worry about everything on Tuesday.
When it piles up.
Exactly. Now, we will not be here on Monday. We are off on Memorial Day. And so we'll have a best of that'll air in place of the show. So you have that going on. And then the rest of the weekend, we just have a lot going on. By the way, I just got a text. Robert, 401, Robert weighed in, saying, "I told you so about Little Slice of Heaven." So Robert must be following me, on the social medias there. Saw that I was posting about, yes, I went out to Abernathy, to the big city of Abernathy. Went out today and, we had to do a couple of things. Went out there. One, just, for those of you in the Lubbock area, if you need your passports renewed, Abernathy, great. They'll get you in, get you out, get the pictures taken. Service with a smile there at the the post office there in Abernathy. We were in there maybe 10, 15 minutes, if that. I mean, it was great service there. And then my wife and I decided, hey, let's go. And she invited her parents along, and we went to a Little Slice of Heaven, cafe, and had a nice little lunch over there. Great people, had a great time. It was packed. They had a good crowd in there, and which I'm pretty sure they do all the time, because it's just one of those little small town cafes where they know everybody. And it was funny. They had the Trump flag flying out front, and then I walked in and I saw there was a picture of Congressman Jody Arrington that they had framed, I guess when he was inside A Little Slice of Heaven, and they have that framed and it's up on the wall. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, got to go by. It will not be the last time we head out to a Little Slice of Heaven cafe in Abernathy. I love going to the small towns and finding going to some of the cafes, some of the small eateries, the mom and pop places in small towns. We love doing that. Something my wife and I really enjoy, and we would do that sometimes on the weekends, where we just take a drive, go somewhere, and find just like that little cafe, that diner. And so, that's just, something that's enjoyable about, living out here. You can do that. You can go to, different communities, find where kind of everyone goes, and, enjoy some good food and, some good people in the West Texas, Big Country, and Panhandle areas. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can get in, sound off on any of the topics, anything that you want to get into on the show today. Of course, we are taking a look at what's happening down with the Texas GOP Convention. It's going on down in San Antonio, where right now I think they're still voting on who the next chairman is going to be. It looks like it's probably going to be Abraham George. Which he was I guess you'd say he was the favorite going into this deal. But you've had some folks who have who I think Makoviak's dropped out of the race and endorsed Dana Myers, and so there's still voting going on. But it looks like Abraham George is probably going to be the next chairman of the Texas Republican Party. We'll see, though. I think they're still counting votes and going through that entire process, and it takes a while. And again, most people in Texas probably have no clue who the Texas GOP chairman is. That is for many people, that's getting into the weeds of the political machine. And so, again, it'll be an interesting thing to see who wins that race and the direction the state Republican Party goes. There's been a lot of write-ups lately about some of the issues within the Texas Republican Party on the business side of things, on the fundraising side of things, and not registering voters. The fact that you only have about 4,000, I think 4,200, 4,300 delegates who showed up to this convention, which is much lower than the last convention. I mean, 10 years ago, you had 17,000 people showing up for the convention. So there is a problem within the Texas Republican Party of people just not being interested and people not getting involved. And that could come back to bite Republicans at some point. Not right now. And I think a lot of this is because you don't have that big battle between Democrats and Republicans right now. That you have some folks who just kind of they kind of sit on the sidelines a little bit on this stuff. But I think that's a dangerous place to be. And then also you have some folks who are just kind of turned off from all the fighting and infighting and the battles that go on within the Republican Party. You have some people who are upset about that. They don't like some of the different directions that the Republican Party is being taken in recent years. So you still have that going on. And again, people should be concerned about the fundraising side. I think there is room for a chairman who obviously does a great job fundraising and does a good job of registering voters, but also one who can tell it like it needs to be told from time to time. I think there's room for that within the Republican Party. At least there should be. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and more.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters need them. We look out for the helpers because they look out for us. Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Help us help first responders in your community today. Go to firstrcf.org to learn more.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Happy Friday. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. A new poll out showing who Republicans want as the VP. Story says, who should Trump's vice presidential running mate be? Though no one knows yet who it will be. Many people seem to have an opinion about who it should be. It's a long list of possible names for the increasingly important vice presidential job. as the latest INI tip poll indicates, as part of the monthly national online poll taken May 1 through the 3rd, we asked 538 Republicans and those who lean that way 2 questions about who they preferred as Trump's vice president. Trump has a margin of error of 4.3 percentage points, which is pretty big. First, we asked a straightforward question: who's your top choice for Trump's vice president? To be thorough, 21 different names were included in the list, along with not sure. The biggest winner, no surprise, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who collected 15% of the support. No one else received double digits backing as their backing. Trailing DeSantis was Nikki Haley at 8%, Vivek Ramaswamy at 7%, and Greg Abbott at 7%. How about that? The Texas governor. Ben Carson at 5%. Former Hawaii Rep Tulsi Gabbard at 5%. No. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott at 4%. And the governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, at 3%. Tucker Carlson also got 3% in this deal. By the way, Marco Rubio, who has been one of the names floated out there, he got 2%, and Doug Burgum, the governor of North Carolina, he's been rumored as someone on the short list. He was at 1%. J.D. Vance out of Ohio, he was at 1%, and Byron Donalds was at 1%. Kristi Noem, oh, poor Kristi Noem, 1% in the poll. Elise Stefanik didn't get any support. Now, 27% of people, they had no idea. That was the big winner. Not sure, which tells me no one really cares when it comes to the VP, because everyone's going to be voting for the top of the ticket, right? Those who support Trump, you're supporting Trump. You're going to support whoever he decides to go with when it comes to the VP slot. You could, at this point, you really don't care too much about that. Families of the Uvalde shooting victims, they're suing just about everybody nowadays. Several Uvalde families suing Daniel Defense, the gun company, whose AR-15 style rifle, an 18-year-old gunman used to kill 19 kids and 2 teachers and injure several others at Robb Elementary School used, lawyers say. The family members of the victims also filed separate lawsuits against the California-based company Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, and Activision, who sells the video game Call of Duty. We got to blame all these other things. We got to blame all these other, except for the 18-year-old. I mean, we're going to blame him too. But we've got to file lawsuits against all these other companies out there. The lawsuits together will argue the 3 companies marketed semi-automatic weapons to the Uvalde gunman before he was 18. Oh, give me a break. Accusing him of negligence and wrongful death, the shooter purchased firearms shortly after he turned 18 years old, then used one of those guns to carry out the deadliest school shooting in Texas history. Josh Koskoff, an attorney representing the family, said there was a direct line between the company's conduct and the Uvalde shooting. Well, there's also a direct line between a lot of people playing Call of Duty, a lot of people who have Daniel Defense guns, and they don't go and shoot up a school. This was the shooter's fault. If he had not had access to the gun, guess what? He would have used something else. This guy was a killer. He wanted to carry out mayhem. He wanted to carry out an evil act. These people, these type of people, they're going to do it. They're absolutely going to do, if they are dead set on killing children, then they're going to do everything they can do, whether it's getting their hand on a gun or just, using a knife, using a sword, using a vehicle. And of course, what the real aim here, it's not Activision, it's not Meta. It's to go after the guns. It's to go after the gun makers, the manufacturers out there. Which again, if someone had used a Ford truck to drive over a bunch of people and plow into a crowd, you don't sue Ford. No one, well, somebody probably would, because you can sue anybody these days. But no one in their right mind would go, you know what, that's Ford's fault. How dare Ford build their vehicles so big, their trucks so big. Nobody needs a truck that big where they could just ram into a crowd and hurt so many people. Nobody needs that much power in a truck. That's the argument, right? That's the argument about the gun, is that, well, nobody needs that gun. No, it's too powerful of a weapon. It's too powerful of a gun. Nobody needs that, even though thousands of people own these firearms. Millions of people own these type of firearms and never use it against anybody. They never go and blow away a school. They never go and shoot up a church or shoot up a nightclub. It's absolutely absurd. I hope it all gets tossed out. I'm sure it will. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more on this Friday edition of the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans, do you take medication? At VA, prescriptions have a range of copay levels, from free to $5, $8, or $11 for a 30-day prescription, depending on your eligibility. Refill by mail, in person, or on VA's mobile app. Sign up at va.gov or call 1-800-MyVA411.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news. At the start, middle, and end of your drive home, and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there today. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can also weigh in on any of the topics that we've been getting into today. Feel free to do so. Let's see a couple of more stories here. This out of Politico. Biden has stayed silent on Trump's trial. The verdict will change that. Apparently, the White House is they're just waiting. They're waiting for the verdict to come in. Of course, they have to send it to the at the trial. It has to go to the jury first. That won't happen until maybe Tuesday. According to Politico, Joe Biden plans to break his vow of silence and publicly address the criminal trials that Trump is facing when a verdict is reached. 4 people familiar with the deliberations, told Politico Biden intends to initially address the verdict in a White House setting, not a campaign one. The show his statement isn't political. Of course it's political. This whole thing has been political. It's a political witch hunt. It's a political trial. It's entirely, everything is political about this. But now Joe wants to seem as though he's not being political. Give me a break. Story continues from Politico that if the jury convicts Trump, Biden's team will then argue that the results show Trump is ill suited for office and that it demonstrates the extremes to which the former president would go to win again. The campaign's social media team is considering leveraging the line of attack further, with the discussions underway about referring to the ex-president online as convicted felon Donald Trump. Oh, please do it. Please do. Please. Again, who the hell's running this campaign? Do they really think anybody, is there any of you out there, would any of you out there be swayed if Donald Trump were convicted in New York City? Would any of you go, nope, I can't vote for the guy. I'm either going to sit out or I'll vote for Joe. Is there any of you out there who would be like that? I really don't see it. I cannot imagine the person who is a Trump supporter, a Trump backer, has been watching all this play out, and then all of a sudden you're going to go, oh no, I'm going to drop him because of this witch hunt that's going on. Again, if you're a Trump supporter, you're probably not even believing that this trial is legit. Most people don't, but I mean, most people have to see through this. And you're going to come out and you're going to call him convicted felon Donald Trump. And you think that's going to work. You think people are going to go, oh, well, I can't vote for that guy. There's no way. I can't vote for this guy now. There's no way. Texter, can you imagine the pressure that's being put on the jurors to find Trump guilty? And of course, we'll never hear about that. Oh, I'm sure they have tremendous, absolutely, tremendous pressure on them. And they're going to. They're going to have a lot of pressure put on them by those in New York, and of course they've been away from the trial now for a few days, and going into next week, more pressure is going to be put on them. You know they're going to hear it from folks, even though they're not supposed to talk about the trial. You know they're going to hear about it. Oh, you've got to convict them. You've got to do it. You've got to send them away. You've got to get rid of Trump. And that's if they're not all Democrats anyway. I mean, again, this is being held in Manhattan. There's a very good, very, very, very good chance that most, if not all, of these jurors are Democrats. I mean, this trial's not being held in Amarillo. Trial's not being even held in Dallas. So this is Manhattan. There's probably a very good chance that the jury is stacked against Trump 100%. So who knows? Let's see. Texture chat, if Trump is out of the picture, why vote? I'm not sure what you mean by that at all. Clarify your text message, because Trump's not going to be out of the picture. Even if Trump's convicted, he can still run, folks. He's not going to go to jail. But I love it. Yeah, please call him convicted felon Donald Trump. If you really think that's going to me, that's going to rally support around Donald Trump. They'll just absolutely rally people to Trump's side. I see that backfiring on the Biden team if they do that. Let's go out to New Mexico. Tim, what's going on today? Hello, Tim.
How you doing, Chad? I appreciate your call with me today. I wanted to know about the WEF and the WHO and what they think they're doing on how they're going to control our lives in any kind of way. There's no way that this can happen. People have to vote this out or whatever. Then a president like Donald F. Trump, get him into office and put him out, take him out like he did last time. There's no way this can happen.
All right. Tim, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think your phone cut out there at the very end. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can send in your thoughts on the text line. Of course, we're coming up on Memorial Day weekend, big weekend. We will not be here on Monday. We'll not be here Monday. We'll have a best of on Monday. And of course, with it being Memorial Day weekend, please do take an opportunity to remember those who gave it all while fighting for this country. Those who served this country, those who fought in our wars, our battles, to protect this country, defend the Constitution, defend everything that we hold dear in this country, and they gave the ultimate sacrifice. That's what this weekend, and that's what Monday is about. Don't forget that. That's what it's about. It's about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice while serving our nation. And I know a lot of people who will go around and they'll think first responders and they'll think those who are currently serving in the military, and they kind of get Memorial Day confused with, and it's good intentions, it's good intentions. And I'm never going to, tell people, don't tell people thanks for serving, but, this is truly about what Memorial Day weekend is. And I think most of you, know this, but, spread the word, because, this is a solemn day. It's a sad day, but it's also a sad day. It's also a day where you can celebrate, and it's appropriate to celebrate being around family and friends, because those who gave it all, that's what they died for. It is so that you can celebrate and that you can live free in this country and be with family and friends and do a big cookout and enjoy the lake and really anything else that you want to do. So but again, take some time and absolutely think about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice while serving our country. God bless their memories, and God bless this country. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages will begin to wrap up the first hour here on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
I'm Scarlett Johansson. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. You can join the movement to end hunger by donating, volunteering, and advocating. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Hope you're having a good day. Nice little Friday out there. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. All right, let's see. Just kind of looking through a few other things here. Yeah, I saw this. There was where was it? Oh yeah, the AP. They had their 5 things to know about Memorial Day, and on the third one. Has Memorial Day always been a source of contention? So I guess there are people who are very unhappy with Memorial Day. I'm sure a few folks who are unhappy with Memorial Day weekend. And then the AP, they're really trying to they're really trying to push this flag issue, the appeal to heaven flag. And the story from the Associated Press, the appeal to heaven flag evolved from Revolutionary War symbol to banner of the far right. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito embroiled in a second flag controversy in as many weeks, this time over a banner that in recent years has come to symbolize sympathies with the Christian nationalist movement and the false claim that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. Now, by the way, before last week, I can almost guarantee you none of you had ever heard that. Because there is no official flag of the 2020 presidential election or the January 6th deal. No, there's no official flag of any of that. The appeal to heaven flag is a historic flag of our country. Now, if some groups are using that flag or flying that flag or whatever it may be, that doesn't matter. That's what they may be using it for their own issue. But that doesn't mean it has anything to do with a Christian nationalist movement or a far, quote unquote, far right movement. It's a historic flag of the United States. There may not be a lot of people who know about the flag, which, by the way, is selling big time on Amazon right now. And I may or may not have ordered one. But it's selling big time on Amazon right now. And it has nothing to do with January 6th. But because a few people, including AOC, are very upset about it, the news media keeps on attacking. Again, it's an attack on the foundations of the country, on the history of the country. If it's something that has something to do with the history of the country, then we have to go after it and say that it is something that the far right is using. On the AP, they put some fans of it identify with the patriot movement that obsesses over the founding fathers and the American Revolution. Others adhere to a Christian nationalist worldview that seeks to elevate Christianity in public life. Quote, it's not abundantly clear which of those reasons would be accurate in this situation, but he called the display outside of Alito's home alarming, saying those who do fly the flag are often advocating for a more intolerant and restrictive form of government aligned with a specific religious philosophy. What the hell does that even? That is a big word salad. That means we don't really know why Samuel Alito is flying it, but I don't know. It could mean anything. Could mean that he's a Christian. Could mean that, he wants to overthrow the United States government. Could just be a flag that he likes. Could just be a historic flag that he really enjoys. Texture, I listened to your show from yesterday. Where can you get a January 6th flag? I want to fly it with my American flag. I have no idea where you can find it. Before everything's a January 6th flag. If it showed up, if one person had it in the crowd, it's a January 6th flag. So I guess your American flag would count as a January 6th flag. Just absolutely insane. The Appeal to Heaven flag was among several banners carried by the January 6th rioters. They also had the Come and Take It flag. They had many flags. We're going to start banning all of them? Give me a break. Get over it. When we come back, we're going to get to hear about one of the great forts in Texas. And, of course, more Memorial Day stuff. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. You're on the Texas Town Square Media Network. Whether you're listening in Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, or anywhere else throughout the great state of Texas and beyond, we welcome you to the Friday edition of the Chad Hasty Show. And what we're going to be doing over the next couple of segments is going back and listening to an interview we had with one of our great forts that you can visit in Texas, Fort McGavock. And let me tell you something, whenever you go and visit these historic forts that we have all over the state, and let me tell you, if you've only been to the Alamo's great. It's wonderful. It's a great, beautiful place that you have to go and see. But some of our other forts and missions and some of our historic areas around the state, it's worth the trip to take. And so what we're going to do this summer is we're going to highlight some of these forts. Of course, today this is an interview that we had about a year ago with one of our great forts, and we're going to go back and we're going to actually interview some more folks throughout the Texas Forts Trail. We're actually going to be visiting with different folks as well throughout the rest of the summer with different festivals and events and places you can go see and experience and celebrate the great state of Texas. So over the next two segments, get to hear about one of our great forts, and you'll also be able to hear some of our best stuff coming back in the last half hour of the program. So enjoy the next hour and have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And of course, we'll be back live on the Tuesday edition of the Chad Hasty Show from 5 to 7 p.m. Don't forget, you can listen to the podcast anywhere you download podcasts, whether it's on Apple or Spotify, really anywhere else. Just look for the Chad Hasty Show. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy the next hour of the Chad Hasty Show. All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. Something that we've been doing on Fridays at 5:35 is taking a tour of the state and finding some of the Texas historical sites that you may or may not know much about, and visiting with the folks who really help keep up those sites and keep the stories alive and the history alive, and really promote the story of Texas. And today we get to visit with Rhett Kearns over at Fort McCavitt, and Rhett is joining us on the program today. Rhett, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on the program today to talk about the fort. And I guess we'll just kind of start off. One, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the fort and how long you've been there.
All right. Well, I've been at Fort McCavitt since February of last year, and I am the educator, curator, and interpreter of Fort McCavitt State Historic Site. Well,
perfect. I think exactly the person we need to talk to then when it comes to the history of this West Texas fort. Tell us, let's get into the history. How long has it been around, and what was the reason for it being built and then used and then reused again?
Yeah, it was established 170 years ago from last March, so that would put it at March of 1852 is when Fort McCavitt was established. And it was put here on the middle of the Texas frontier because after the war with Mexico ended in 1848, Texas was now officially a state in the Union, and people were settling Texas, and the gold rush was happening, so people were moving west. And at this time, about one-third of the United States Army was in Texas because they were afraid of a possible invasion by Mexico, and it was also still wide frontier that required the Army service for protection. And it didn't see too much action throughout the 1850s. It was abandoned in 1859. It saw some time as a prisoner of war camp during the Civil War, and then it was reactivated in 1868 by the U.S. Army because the frontier had receded during the Civil War, and they needed to start getting Texas to be settled again.
Yeah. And, this is, a beautiful site for those who have not been before. There's a lot of history, obviously, at this fort. And tell us about some of the different structures that you have there.
Well, the one I'm in right now is the office building, which was the hospital, which was completed in 1874. It's a rather large structure, and it was almost 2 stories at one point, but they decided to leave it as a 1-story structure. And it's mostly original. We still got original floorboards inside of the building, and there's a couple others. There's 16 standing structures from the Army days, one of which is a schoolhouse. There's several officer buildings, one barracks building where the enlisted men stayed, a headquarters building, a quartermaster store, and a non-commissioned officer building.
And the fort is from what I've read, is considered one of the most well-preserved of the Texas frontier forts. Is that right?
That is correct. We have, as I said, 16 original standing structures out of around 40 to 50 original buildings, which doesn't sound like much, but we were a town for 90 years, and so these structures were used by common citizens, and so they've maintained them, they've kept them here, and instead of them falling into ruin, they were well taken care of. And when you come out here, you'll see that we're really still on the frontier, unlike many of these frontier forts that got absorbed into a large city. We're still on the frontier.
Yeah, well, and you just something that we've heard so many times from some of the different places that we've visited with on Fridays is that many of these forts, once they were abandoned, people just started picking them apart and using the pieces for their own homes or establishing the forts as their home and really just kind of not meaning to tear down history, but just going, hey, we need a place to live too now.
Yeah, up until about the 1960s and 70s, a lot of this old stuff that was, built in the 1800s, they just considered it surplus. And the timber out here at these buildings was supreme. It was some of the best timber you could get for your building. So if you owned the property or got permission from the property owner, you could just scavenge the wood. And then when the state took over in the late 1960s, we've just done as best we can to restore these structures.
Yeah. So what's the as far as the history goes, as far as the Buffalo Soldier regiments, this fort has a pretty interesting history there.
Oh yes, we have quite a history regarding the Army frontier. We had many famous Civil War generals here, and of course all 4 regiments of the Buffalo Soldiers were here. The 24th Infantry was one of them, and they were actually born here. The 38th and 41st Infantry were African American regiments, and they were consolidated here at Fort McCavitt to create the 24th Infantry. And the first African American regular Army soldier to receive the Medal of Honor was stationed here at Fort McCavitt for an action that took place only about 15 miles north of here.
And so, when it comes to the history, as far as with Indian tribes and in the fort, was there any bit of history there?
Yes, there are several accounts by officers about how a lot of the Comanche tribes, namely the Penneticut band of the Comanches, would come up to the fort in the 1850s and would just trade with the soldiers there. There were not any battles that were fought in this area between the Army and the Native American tribes, but there was a Comanche movement through this area in 1866 that removed 24,000 head of cattle, and there was no Army around here at that time. But that's about the extent of a lot of the Indian activity in this area.
And have y'all been able to find different artifacts and things back to the past with the fort?
Yes. Now we are an active archaeological site, so stuff turns up every once in a while, and it is of course protected. So people will come in and they say, "Well, we found this belt buckle," or we found this button, and we ask that anyone who finds anything will turn it in to us, and we will add it to our collections. We just recently received a small grouping of artifacts from someone who recovered them well before this was a state historic site, and we are in the process of accessioning them into our collections as we speak.
How cool would that be? You're walking around, you're taking a tour, and all of a sudden you're like, "Hey, look, I found something." And I mean, that's got to be pretty cool for those people who've actually stumbled upon something.
Oh yeah, you are the first person in maybe 150 years to have held that item.
Yeah,
but
wow.
Since we are an active archaeological site, we do ask that people will, if you find something, please say something. Leave it where you found it, and just let us know.
Yeah, it's not a gift shop.
Yeah.
It's part of history. We need to take the break. When we come back, what I'd love to do is visit with you about what people can see now, what tours they can take, and then also different events that y'all have. And I know you have one coming up.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, so let's take the break. When we come back, we will continue our visit with the Red Kerns at Fort McCavitt. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Song of the South, sweet potato pie and I shut my mouth. Gone with the wind, there ain't nobody looking back again. Cotton on the roadside, cotton in the ditch. We all picked the cotton, but we never got rich. Daddy was a veteran, a Southern Democrat. They ought to get a rich man to vote like that, singing Song of the South.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. For those of you listening in Lubbock, Abilene, Wichita Falls, do appreciate you tuning in today and throughout the state of Texas. No matter where you're tuning in, do appreciate you tuning in on this Friday. And also while we're discussing one of our Texas historic sites, Fort McCavitt, and we've got Rhett Kearns on. Rhett, for our listeners all over the state, where we do this because we want people to go and learn more about our history, but also go and see these beautiful places that are just historical sites for the state and learn our state's history. Where is the fort located at?
So the fort is located in Menard County, which is about 2.5 hours northwest of San Antonio and about an hour south of San Angelo.
Excellent. And so, take a nice little weekend and go and visit the area. And of course, there's lots of different sites to see out there. And what can people expect when they go today or this weekend? What can they expect to see?
Well, when you go at any time, you'll notice some very beautiful whitewashed stone buildings on top of a hill, and it looks just as it did 150 years ago. And if you were to come next weekend, we are doing a program on the U.S. Army Telegraph that was established in the mid-1870s. So we're going to have living historians dressed in the Army uniforms of the 1870s. They will have roles to fulfill, such as an adjutant, a sergeant major, a telegraph operator, and we are going to work our telegraph, which is connected between two of our buildings, and we will demonstrate how the Army sent messages using this telegraph in the late 1870s. So you get a glimpse into the past when we do these programs, and that's why we have them about once a month.
Oh, very nice. So people can usually catch these depending on when they go, and you do them at least once a month, is that right?
Yes, we do them once a month, and we have upcoming events listed on our website at thc.texas.gov/historic sites/Fort McCavitt State Historic Sites. They are spaced about a month apart.
Yeah, that's great. And when people take a tour, how much does it cost? And about how long does the average person stay on site? And I guess what all buildings can they go into? So
we have a fee of $4 admission for adults, $3 for seniors and veterans, 5 and under and active military are free. And it is a self-guided tour, although if you wanted me to give you a tour, you just have to ask. I usually spend no more than half an hour to 45 minutes on a walking tour throughout the structures and throughout the fort. We only have about 90 acres of property, but it stretches all the way from the spring where the soldiers got their water all the way out to the quartermaster building in the far northeast corner of the fort. There's 16 standing buildings, and about half of them are able to be accessed from the inside. So our hospital, our schoolhouse, some of our officer buildings and our barracks, those are open and decorated to look as they did in the 1850s and 1870s.
Very nice. Very cool. And so, again, it's $4 for adults to get in, and it closed on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, day after Christmas, and New Year's Day. But after that, y'all are open all the time for people to go and take a tour. Is there, can they see some of the artifacts as well, or are those kind of behind the scenes?
Well, we have a rather nice museum that was housing all of the important artifacts, like a few uniform pieces, mostly things that were found around here well after the fort had closed. We also have a rotating exhibit that switches out every 6 months. Right now we have a unique collection from another fort that involves some uniform pieces and some footwear. So if you wanted to come out and see those are already there behind glass. Everything else is either in storage or would need a special request if you wanted to view them.
Okay, and then I guess to keep up a fort like this and make sure everything is obviously kept up and to make sure everything's in good condition, because you want to keep everything nice out there. how are y'all funded? Is it state funded? Is it locally or donor based? How does all that work?
Yes, sir. We are all funded by the state, although we do have a friends group that helps us do our living history programs. So donations of any sort are always welcome.
Yeah, excellent. Rhett, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you taking some time to join us, and we encourage everyone to get out to Fort McCavitt whenever they can.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see everybody out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's Rhett Kearns over at Fort McCavitt. Again, just another great stop along the different forts that we've been looking at and visiting here on the show, and getting a little bit of history out there with our state. And this is another one of those just really beautiful buildings. I think what he said, 16 different buildings that are, they're not all intact, but have different, some would say ruins, but they're you have some of them have some of that structure that's around them, and it's one of those where it's just really beautiful to see and really interesting to take a look at and take in. So if you're doing a road trip, or maybe you just want to pull over during your next trip down to San Antonio or San Angelo, wherever you may be going, great stop would be right there at Fort McCavitt. And next week we'll visit with another Texas historical site during this time, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback. And also I know a lot of the people at the different forts have been just real happy that they get to tell their story, and to tell the story of a place they're very passionate about and have worked at, and to bring it to more and more people. It's one of those that I had a texter last 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago, who said that that they've been doing more research now into how many forts that we have in Texas. They were blown away by just how many places how many historic sites that we have, and forts that people can go and visit, missions and everything else. And it's when you think about it, we do have a lot of history that you can visit. Let's see, one texter, fort history is cool. Yeah, it is. It is pretty cool to hear about all of it. So thanks again to Rhett Kearns for joining us here on the program. Next week we'll bring you another Texas historical site here on the Chad Hasty Show. When we come back, we've got let's see, Nick's final question of the week. He's been working on this all week long. And we've also got some national headlines to get into, your phone calls, your text. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auction reported prices steady to $5 higher. Texas Weekly Direct reported prices 1 to 5 higher, and cattle futures were mixed. June live cattle futures up 18 cents, closed at $183.70. August feeder cattle futures down $1.23, closed at $260.22. July cotton futures were down, closed at $80.52. July wheat futures up 11 cents, closing at $7.21 a bushel. July corn up a penny to close at $4.65, and July soybean futures up 9 cents, closed at $12.48 a bushel. July soybean meal futures up $9.80, closed at $386.50 per ton. May Class 3 milk futures up a penny, closing at $18.58 a hundred. July crude oil futures up 85 cents, closed at $77.72 per barrel. And the Dow Jones up 4 points, closed at 39,069. And that's market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. So,
the news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to The Chad Hasty Show.
Hey, it's Chad Hasty, and you're listening to the best of the Chad Hasty Show. Be sure to download the podcast. That's right, the Chad Hasty Show podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast. Appreciate you being out there today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. The Democrats continue to attempt to delegitimize the U.S. Supreme Court with flag issues. AOC demanding Senate Democrats investigate reports of January 6th flags flown at the Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's home. Now, there's no such thing as a January 6th flag, folks. You know, there were U.S. flags that the Crown had on January 6th. There were come and take it flags that people had on January 6th. There is no January 6th flag. But now you've got the genius here, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, after the New York Times reported on Wednesday that a flag carried by rioters during the riot at the U.S. Capitol building was displayed outside a home owned by Justice Alito. Now, this flag is so damning, you actually haven't heard about the flag being flown at Alito's home or during the January 6th riot before yesterday, even though apparently it was there. But because somebody had it in the crowd on January 6th, you've got the Democrats who, again, this is their way of trying to delegitimize the U.S. Supreme Court. Don't doubt that. The flag called Appeal to Heaven was flown outside Alito's beach vacation home last summer. Oh, no. Now, it took a year for this to be reported. That's how horrible this flag was. Alito and the quarterback commented on the Appeal to Heaven flag. Alito previously said that the inverted flag was flown by his wife amid a dispute with neighbors and that he had no part of it. A white flag with a green pine tree was seen flying at Alito's beach home in New Jersey, according to 3 photographs obtained by the New York Times. The images were taken on different dates in July and September, though it was not clear for how long it was flying overall or how much time Alito spent there. The flag dates back to the Revolutionary War, but in more recent years, it's become associated with conservatives, Christian nationalism, and support for Trump, according to the Times. That's according to the New York Times. So all of a sudden, it's a bad flag. You know what other flag is associated with conservatives and support for Trump? I don't know, the American flag? The Democrats want to destroy every symbol of this country. And I'm sure there are many of you who had no idea about this flag. Before yesterday, before today, maybe even before this show, you've never heard of this flag. I guarantee you could go out to any mall in America and ask people, what is this flag? And they'd go, I have no idea. You could ask them, do you associate this with the January 6th riot? No, I don't even, what is that flag? Republicans in Congress and state officials have also displayed the flag. House Speaker Mike Johnson hung it in his office last fall shortly after winning the gavel. Spokesman for the Speaker appreciates its rich history. Was given the flag by a pastor who served as a guest chaplain in front of the House, according to the Associated Press. This is insane, but this is how the Democrats try and chip away at our history, at our founding, and trying to connect everything to the rally on January 6th, to the insurrection. Well, if it was part of the insurrection, and then it must be banned. If it was, it's like when you go back a few years when Trump was president, and you had people who were giving the OK sign. And there used to be a game where you would give the okay sign and someone would look at it and you'd punch them in the arm. And then there would just be baseball players or football players or basketball players. They'd give the okay sign. And once a white person did it on national TV, it was viewed as racist because of some group out there that, according to the New York Times, they had co-opted it as a racist symbol. And so we've got to say, oh, well, now that's racist. Notice how when Trump's not president, all that died off. All that went away. You can give the okay sign now, and you're not a racist. That'll probably come back. The appeal to heaven flag has nothing to do with January 6th. It has nothing to do with Samuel Alito not being able to be a great judge on the U.S. Supreme Court. But how do you chip away at the legitimacy of the U.S. Supreme Court? You do it this way, by saying, "Oh, these guys are racist. They're all in on Trump. They're all for Trump. You can't trust them. You can't trust the U.S. Supreme Court. We've got to stack the court. We've got to remake the U.S. Supreme Court in America's image." These are all words that you'll hear from the left. These are all phrases you'll hear from the left. We've got to reshape the court in America's true image. Anything they can do to chip away. Anything they can do to chip away. And again, what do they want to do? They want to drastically redo this country. And if we can make people think, oh, well, there's a flag is a problem. Even though the New York Times admits, we have no idea how long it flew. We don't know if Alito was there. We don't know if he knew about it. We don't even know what the flag means. But it's got to be bad because one picture at the January 6th riot, it had a photo of this flag. Now, there were a ton of American flags. I'm looking at a photo right now of a thin blue line flag. Is that bad now? It's just absolutely crazy. And we cannot allow these people to get away with it. We cannot allow it. 806-680-2790. There is no January 6th flag. No flag that was at the riot, insurrection, get together, barbecue, whatever you want to call it, on January 6th. There's no official flag. There were a ton of flags out there. There were a ton of people who had MAGA hats on. There were a ton of people who had American flags. The goal is to just label everything racist, everything a MAGA terrorist. That's the goal of the left. And it's pretty pathetic. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and we'll begin to wrap things up.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
There will be one less birthday party to celebrate today. One less coffee date with a friend today. One less family dinner today. Because there will be one less motorcycle rider on the road today. On average, a motorcyclist is killed on Texas roads every day. When you're behind the wheel, obey the speed limit and be extra careful at intersections. Let's start turning that one less into one more. Please share the road and look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from TxDOT.
Hey, it's Chad Hasty, and you're listening to the best of the Chad Hasty Show. Be sure to download the podcast. That's right, the Chad Hasty Show podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can send in your thoughts on the text line at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. All right, let's see if Nick has seen this news yet. Have you seen the top destination for Memorial Day this weekend? Have you seen that news? No? Okay. All right. So, Nick, where do you think the top destination is? I'll give you just, a little bit of it. It's just here in the United States. Mm-hmm. Top destination for people traveling on Memorial Day weekend. Where do you think the top U.S. destination is?
I think it's either Seattle, Chicago, or New York.
Okay, so Seattle's number 9.
Okay.
Chicago's number 8.
Okay.
And New York is number 2.
Ooh, but where's the number 1?
Number 1, I'll give you the top 5 here, okay? Number 5, Miami.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
A lot of people want to go to the beach. There you go, Miami. Number 4, San Francisco, which is a little surprising.
Okay.
But okay, San Francisco. Number 3, Los Angeles. Again, beach, nice weather. Sure. Number 2, New York City.
Can I take you guys number 1?
Please do.
Las Vegas.
Bam! Number 1, Las Vegas, Nevada. The number 1 place for people to go.
Really? On Memorial Day? Is it the whole weekend, or is it just kind of...
It's the whole weekend,
just Memorial Day weekend? What the slot machines? Is that what people want to do?
I don't know. I mean, look, I enjoy Las Vegas. I enjoy.
There's more to do. Yeah, I know.
I enjoy. There's a lot to do in Las Vegas. You're starting to get on the. I think it's right on the where from here on out during the summer it's going to be really hot in Las Vegas. So if you're someone who you don't mind a little heat and you want to go to Las Vegas and you want to have a good weekend, perfect. Good weekend to do that. Plus, you're probably going to spend a lot of time indoors anyway. So go and enjoy yourself. And you can also have the excuse, it's a 3-day weekend. You can't stay here too long. It's just, go in, gamble for a couple of days, and then head home.
One tends to spend a lot of money in Vegas, right? I've never been.
Yeah.
But I hear things.
You can, I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
You can spend as much as you want in Las Vegas. You can spend a lot of money. But you can also spend very little money in Las Vegas because the hotel rooms, they tend to be on the cheaper side, even at the
cheaper.
Absolutely. I mean, you can still find very expensive hotel rooms, but the goal is for you to get there, and their thought is, hey, we're not going to hammer you on the hotel room.
You do that to yourself.
We want you to spend that money on the tables and at the slot machines. That's that's where they get you. So you could stay like in downtown Vegas, which is coming back. You can stay on the Strip. Now there's some expensive places, but it's not as pricey as you would think going to Las Vegas. Again, you could spend a lot of money on meals. They've got some of the most expensive dinners and expensive buffets in the world you can find in Las Vegas. And then they've got little cafeterias that you can go to and little grills inside the casinos that you can go to.
One thing that I want to know, if that's the number 1 most traveled to spot, is this projected, expected to be, or just in the past? This is
projected. They did this, the travel booking site. They looked at they looked at top search destinations for Memorial Day weekend, as they have been in previous years. Traditional favorites holding on to the lion's share of searches and bookings. They say travel trends and destinations experts say that while families are looking to have some fun on the beaches of Florida, couples still want to enjoy the thrill of Las Vegas.
That was my follow-up. Is this a single ticket situation, or is this families, or it sounds like couples generally?
So you've got it's a little bit of a mix because you could go You could go couple families. I would think families heading to Miami, heading to Orlando. So here you go, Miami, Orlando, Honolulu.
Sure, family destinations.
So there's some family destinations there. And then, you know, if it's just the two of you, maybe you want to go hang out in New York, L.A., Las Vegas, and do more adult stuff.
I'm very against big cities. And I mean that as in, if I have free time, I don't see myself thinking, let's go to Chicago, let's go to New York, or, you know, some of these most, clustered, densest places in America. Yeah. If I have free time, it's going to be at home. If I'm going on vacation, it's going to be somewhere peaceful. Yeah. Or, you know, these quote-unquote family places. I'd go to, Florida. Or,
and I think it depends on what you're kind of in. So my wife and I, a few years ago, we went to Chicago. Mm-hmm. And we had friends who had gone to Chicago. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to Chicago. One, the violence. I'm not going to go to Chicago. No, thank you. I had a blast in Chicago.
What did you do?
Now, we stayed at the Drake Hotel, which is in the northern part of Chicago, off the Millionaire Mile, if you will. We went to a Chicago Cubs game. Nice. We went to a few museums. There's just a lot of stuff to do in Chicago, and we had a blast. We had a great time. Went to the Lincoln Park Zoo. Went to just a lot of stuff that you can go. A ton of museums. Ton of places to go and see.
That's the Bean, right? Millennium Park. The
Bean, yep. I saw that.
I've been there, I think, once, and I remember seeing. We did the classic tourist take a picture with the Bean in the background.
But that's not a relaxing vacation.
No,
if you want a relaxing vacation, then hey, Honolulu, boom, right there. Put me on the beach. I'm happy. Be taking a relaxing vacation in August. We're going to go on a cruise. Can't wait. Stay away, hurricanes. Right in the hurricane season, we live dangerously. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your evening. Follow me on social media at Chad HD Radio. By the way, Dallas, number 15, right behind Nashville, Tennessee. There you go. God bless you all. Have a great evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Friday, for an Open Line Friday. As we get you ready for Memorial Day weekend, we'll see you then.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.